Well, hello everyone. It is time for another community meetup. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, we're going to talk about an amazing topic, customs topic. We're going to deep dive, well, a little bit at least, into it and explore rules of origin under the EU-UK Trade and Cooperation Agreement. And in particular, we're going to focus on those two crucial ways that you can make use of preferential origin. That's going to be the focus of today. And I'm excited to welcome you and thank you for joining us live and with the group or online. So we're going to get started right away. I'll have slides prepared for you that I really want to show to you. And then the format is pretty known to you now. We're going to do a public part, and then we're going to do a Chatham rules part where we're going to switch the camera off, switch the recording off, and then we're going to answer all of the questions or discuss all of the issues that are pertinent and important for you today. So let's get going. Okay, so I moved simply up here to the little corner on the top right. I hope you can see me. I've prepared some slides. So this is our customs community meetup, an opportunity for customs professionals and export control and sanctions professionals to come together once a week, focus around one topic and have that one discussed, and then have the opportunity for us to therefore build our network and build our subject matter expertise. So today we're going to be talking about the proof of origin under the EU-UK Trade and Cooperation Agreement. So quite specific, but we need to be specific when we talk about rules of origin, obviously. So this is going to be our feature topic today. Just a quick word on what this is. So this is our virtual community meetups, an opportunity for customs managers, but also export control, sanctions, import and export professionals, and really anyone interested in customs and global trade to get together, virtual event, and discuss matters of common interest. When we meet, we try to have a theme or a topic, which then a community member will present. Today, I'm the one that does that. But in the future, if you have a topic that you want to present your views on, then please reach out to me. And what the purpose of this is to build continuously every week subject matter expertise and do that step by step, grow our network and meet like-minded people, usually across borders and distances, right? It doesn't matter where you are in the world, you can connect virtually, and then that way we can meet. Everyone's welcome to attend, and all we need you is to register. That's it. And this is possible because we have sponsors that are the two. Number one is our Customs and Global Trade Intelligence Service, Customs Watch and Export Control and Sanctions Watch. And that's a weekly update on everything that happened in the previous week. And that comes out every week one edition. It's a block style entry, and you can review very quickly all the changes that happened across the regulatory fields. And of course, our training department also sponsors this, and they offer, as you would expect, rules of origin training. If you want to know more about this, you can join our mailing list at customsmanager.info. So yeah, so that's the sponsor, the second sponsor, and you see the next training on rules of origin is for 26th of April 2024. That's great for you or for your team if you want a quick 4-hour session on rules of origin and how to prove the originating status of your goods. So as I said, the topic of today is going to be proof of origin under the EU-UK Trade and Cooperation Agreement. The agenda is always the same. First, we're building subject matter expertise in the first kind of 15 minutes, 30 minutes of the meeting in customs, export controls, and sanctions. So we have various subject matters, and then we are networking after that, and we're answering your questions, and we're not recording that. So there's a public meeting, and then there's a private meeting. Also, when you do attend these official meetings are live. So if you take time out of your busy schedule, you get some freebies. And here, because we're talking rules of origin, you can now look in the chat. And in the chat, I will have provided you with the Q&A from the EU Trade and Cooperation Agreement on rules of origin. There are over 50 questions and answers that help you be more compliant and, of course, save a lot of money. And then we have the introductory guide of the European Commission, DG TaxUD, of the rules of origin that you can also now find in your chat, and you can just download it right away along with these slides. If you're watching this on demand, then please note that you can also download this slide deck by visiting the website of customsmanager.info. And as you scroll down, you will see there is a link to the community meetup, and this is where you will find the slides right now. There, you will then be able to click on these live links, and that will give you the opportunity to download these documents as well. So, onto our subject knowledge building exercise. If you deal with rules of origin, you know that there is a need to prove that your goods meet the terms and conditions of a preferential trade agreement. That could be any trade agreement signed. It's usually the same kind of deal, but we focused here just to make it clear on the specific EU-UK TCA, Trade and Cooperation Agreement. And what we want to do is we want to kind of break down the requirements as regards how you declare preferential origin. There's so many more aspects that we could be talking about, but that's for our training course. So there are essentially two ways that we can demonstrate that the goods originate either in the EU or the UK or the contracting party, and they are statement on origin and importer's knowledge. And I'm working with quite a lot of businesses who come to me and say, oh, do I do this correctly? Am I putting the right statement on origin in there? Should I be using importer's knowledge, or should I be using statement on origin, or is there a third mechanism? And then the question I get loads is, what's my Rex number? And I'm thinking, you are a UK business, why do you care? And then everybody's looking for a UK Rex number, and I'm like, oh, gee, we need to have this session so that we can understand why that is not even possible. So let's have a look. So the first way that you can declare preferential origin under the EU-UK TCA is, of course, your statement on origin. That's what you put in commercial documentation. Now, make sure that you understand this does not have to be on an invoice. It can be on a packing slip. It can be an accompanying document. So I've seen companies which don't put it on their invoice because of their ERP system and the way they're set up. So they create a separate process whereby they put statements on origin into a folder, and that you can access and have that linked to the to the invoice. Whichever way works, as long as there is a clear link and it is on some kind of commercial paperwork. So that statement of origin goes in there, and it is the exporter. Also, people are confused. They think they as importer need to put that on. It doesn't work that way. The exporter makes out the statement of origin and self-declares the origin of its product. Now, when I speak about origin, I don't mean put in, this is of German origin or of Lithuanian origin. It is of kind of EU origin. Why? Because we have a customs union, and either and the two parties of this agreement are the EU or the UK. So it either originates or it doesn't. Specific country origin, Italian origin, Spanish origin matter, but more in the context of non-preferential origin than they do in preferential origin. So in preferential origin, it is the most important part is to see, do you originate by meeting the terms within the agreement? And that's the EU-UK TCA, the relevant provisions. So the exporter makes out the statement on origin, self-declares the origin by any EU exporter. This can be done without any further ado, as long as the value of the consignment is below the 6,000 euro threshold. So you don't need to do anything. You just can put it in if it is under 6,000 euros. If it is above 6,000 euros, then you need to be registered under the registered exporter system REX if you are an EU exporter. I'll talk about this more. If you're an UK exporter, again, you can provide a statement on origin on shipments with a consignment value of below 6,000 euros, equivalent to pounds. And equally, if you are a UK exporter and you have more than the equivalent of 6,000 euros, then you now need a GB AORI number. You do not need a REX number because this system does not exist in the UK. So the exporter makes out a statement of origin based on information demonstrating that the product is originating, including information on the originating status of the material used in the production of the product. And that could be such as a supplier declaration. And on customsmanager.info, there is a guide on suppliers declaration. So if you need to know how to make them out, what's the difference between a one-off supplier declaration and a long-term supplier declaration, how to work with suppliers to get that, please go to customsmanager.info, where you will find extensive guidance on how to do that. The exporter is also responsible for the statement on origin and the information provided's accuracy. So you need to be sure that when you do complete that, you can back it up. He or she should be prepared to submit all the appropriate documents proving the origin status of the product at the request of the customs authorities. So it is important to note that you do not need to assimilate a whole bunch of documents to prove the origin for every shipment. If requested, though, you must be able to do so. So make sure you can answer the question, you have declared origin, now demonstrate how. And one of the ways that you can legally demonstrate that is with supplier declaration. So you do need to have a bit of a look as to how you deal with that. The statement of origin looks like this. So that goes onto your commercial paperwork. And there it's very straightforward, really. You complete this text as it is. You don't try to add or remove or change it. Just leave it as it is right now. That's legally required. Again, you need to put that on a document where the item, the product concerned that you're certifying, is mentioned and sufficiently described. So saying that something is a red product or a steel product is not sufficient. You would need to say this is a steel sheet with that much millimeters thickness, for example, right? It's sufficiently detailed. And then you can refer to that with the statement on origin. You can use the statement on origin for one shipment or for multiple shipment of identical products during a period not exceeding 1 year. So therefore, there is the part where you put the period in from to, and then the statement you have to put is the export of these products covered by this document, and then goes in, if you're EU, the REX number, or if you're UK, the EORI number, if needed, declares that except of where otherwise clearly indicated, which means in the above part of the invoice or the packing list or whatever document you use, you would declare something like, this product does not have preferential origin. So you would specifically refer to the non-preferential status of a product, for example. So unless clearly indicated above that these products are of, and then you either put in EU or UK preferential origin. Place of date, name of the exporter, and voila, there you are. So just make sure that I can understand if I do your customs entries, and I do quite a lot of them, and part of my job as your customs agent is to ensure that this is correct. And because we are a customs advisory company as well, and a consulting company, it is necessary for us to be correct, because we can't advise you to be correct and then not be correct when we become a customs agent for you. So therefore, we do pay attention to these things, and we need you to also please do that, especially when we are your agent. So there are little 1, 2, 3, 4s here, and they need to be read in combination with these explanations. So the 1 to the 1, the 2 to the 2, etc. And there you can clearly see how to complete that. So everything I have just told you is it is what it is. Yeah, so is basically it. Now, people have questions about REX, and they're quite confused about REX sometimes. So I just wanted to give you a quick word on REX. The Registered Exporter System's role in the statements on origin. And just to clarify, this is a self-certification system of preferential origin of goods by economic operators who make out preferential origin documents, right? So this is where it appears. You've seen where you have to put it. You've seen where you have to get it. It is operated by the European Union. I've said that 3 times now, not the UK. The exporter or the producers must be registered in a database by the competent authorities, the Germans, the French, the Italian, the Spanish, to be entitled to make out these preferential origin documents. So there's one more step additional to do in the EU that you don't have to do in the UK. And once you're registered and once you clicked, I confirm that I understand the rules of origin and I know how to apply them correctly, because that's the key point of this, then you become a registered exporter and then you get a REX number. So that I can reasonably assume that when you do have a REX number, you must have clicked, I confirm that I know what I'm doing. Yeah, and if you show that you don't know what you're doing, then you've clicked that you've gotten the REX number and that you know what you're doing, but you don't know what you're doing, then there is a much stronger case for the customs to tell you, wait a minute, I think we're going to remove that. And then you're basically not allowed to export anymore. So it's as easy as that. So you need to be sure that you've understood the rules of origin when you get the REX number. So he says, and then you need to indicate that. So hopefully that helps a little bit with the REX number. The second part is not to do with statement of origin, but is on importer's knowledge as a proof of origin. That's a second equally valid option. But it implies knowledge of the importer. So if you are in a normal transaction of buyer and seller, it is quite unlikely that the buyer knows the intricate details of origin of the seller. That might not be desired. And equally, an importer traditionally wouldn't know the details from the exporter unless the exporter tells. But there are other shades of gray because there are relationships between importer and exporter. There are possibilities whereby the importer is a sister company to the main company, for example, or a brother company, or the main company is in the UK and the subsidiary is in the EU or vice versa. So there might be relationships that will allow the importer, for example, into the UK to access the same systems as the exporter because it is one. In that case, it is possible that the importer does indeed have importer's knowledge, but you then need the intrinsic details and knowledge of how the origin gets calculated and what the origin of the raw materials are, what the rules of origin are, and see if you have a rules of origin calculator or an engine or someone that does it. We, for example, on a weekly basis calculate the origin for all the new products that we have in our client's portfolio. It's a standing job that we do. We use machinery and AI to do that, but then we take a personal look at it again because AI is great, but is it really that great, if you kind of get my gist? So there's a human element that needs to make sure that when we do declare rules of origin, they are also correct, right? So we do that in the background so that then we feed it into an ERP system that then sits in a company in the European Union, and then the subsidiary, the importer, can access it and therefore has importer's knowledge, if you kind of understand that. So if you do importer's knowledge, then there is a few requirements. You obviously must have the commodity code because you need to be able to check and demonstrate how you know. So you must demonstrate knowledge. So do you know the commodity codes? Can you give a brief description of the production process? That's the minimum for any rule of origin. And then if it is based on wholly obtained products, well, then you need to go into the category of the product and then explain how you meet the relevant rules, product-specific rules of origin. And if the origin is based on sufficiently worked or a processed a rule of origin, then there's a list of 5 things that you need to possibly provide, including, of course, the value or the weight or the list of materials that goes into the making of this product. And that, if you know rules of origin, then speaks directly to the 3 types of rules of origin that you can reasonably expect to see in free trade agreement: the tariff shift rule, the value added rule, and the manufacturing or processing rule. And if that doesn't ring a bell, then please join our training, and then we'll sort it all out and discuss it all and calculate the rules of origin de facto for you. And then there are a couple of questions that you must be able to answer. So in other words, if you're going for that, then please have a closer look into what you need to demonstrate and have a system and have a process and procedures that will ensure that when you get to the point of audit, you can actually answer these questions in an insightful and correct and meaningful manner. And equally, if you see that you can never, ever give that information, well, then that is not the way to do it. Then we're going with the first option statement on origin. And that should conclude it. I said I'm not going to speak so long. We're going to do bite-sized subject matter expertise building on a weekly basis. So there it is. Is more information on this you can find either in the documents that I've shared with you, where you can reread everything I've said. Also note that there are two ways, very easy ways to find out much more. Number one is to visit our resource hub. Our resource hub is in construction. It is because there's so many topics. It is constantly being built. There's a CBAM part. There is a rules of origin part, a sanctions part, a classification part, an SPS good part. So you can, for every element, there is a resource hub, which gives you briefing guide, step-by-step guides, kind of always follows the same structure. There's a briefing guide, there's a step-by-step guide on what you need to do. It's perfect for people starting out or need some orientation help. And then there is a section on latest updates and news. So whenever something dynamic happens, so whatever the latest update was on rules of origin, for example, PEM convention, then you click there and you will be always informed of what, for example, the EU or the UK are doing on rules of origin. If you're, for example, interested in the CPTPP rules of origin, you go there. If you're interested in the African Free Trade Agreement rules of origin guide, you go there. If you're interested in the PEM convention and how to navigate the new alternative rules of origin, you go there. Whatever you do, you go there. And if you want to know more about what I've explained, the link to the blog entry that explains everything I've just said and more, including supplier declaration, is right there as well. And if you say, well, that's all good, but it's really too complicated, this resource hub thing, can you make it easier? Yes, of course. So on the website of customsmanager.info, you'll find a tab called All Updates. This means all updates, everything we publish in a blog entry where we tell you what happened and then we explain what it means and why it's important, goes to all updates. There is a search function and you put in rules of origin, as I've done there, and then you get, I think, 73 articles just on rules of origin. There are over 1,000 articles for you to go through and learn rules of origin on whenever you feel like it. It is a lexica, it is a resource center, it is a learning opportunity. It is everything that I, as a customs professional, would have loved to have in my time because it avoids having to navigate all these different websites and brings everything together in one area, which I particularly like. And of course, if you say, well, that's all good, but can you put it all into context? Or Arnie, I love to hear you so much talk. Can you explain more? I would welcome that. We meet again then on the 26th of April, actually only on the 26th of April, not the 27th of April, so I'll change that. And we'll meet for 4 hours. And then we talk for 4 hours about rules of origin. We'll talk about what's the difference between preferential origin and non-preferential origin. What is in a free trade agreement in general? How would the provisions for rules of origin look? How do you determine the origin of goods? What is binding origin information or advanced origin rulings? What about the proofs and the certificates of origin? What is a certificate of origin and what is it not? So lots of things to talk about, that's for sure. And that is it for the public part. I just wanted to remind you that we're breaking. Next week, we're not here because it's Easter and we have other things to do. But in 2 weeks, on the 5th of April, I'd like to see you again. And why not talk about SPS controls? Now, this is the subject. And what's really great is even if you're not in SPS controls, why not join anywhere? What's the worst that can happen? You might pick something up that you don't even know about. And you might be delighted to know that you don't have to deal with these things because they're very complex. But it's a big deal for the UK because on the 30th of April, we have new veterinary border control. So all the food stuff that's coming from Europe into the UK gets checked at the border. Not all, but you know how it is. There's always a lot of detail. So I've been working quite a lot on this and I've been speaking to a lot of border control posts and I am thinking of a particular one that I'm very familiar with, and I'm thinking about inviting the guy in charge to come and speak to us. So hopefully we'll have a guest speaker. I'll see if he's available. So again, you're very welcome. You don't need to be in SPS controls. Just let that join, and will be something that is building your knowledge and awareness. And if you want this, then just go and book it. Now, with that said, thank you so much for your attention. And this concludes the public part of the meeting. I'm just going to ask if there are any comments or any questions that anybody has would like to ask while we're still on the air. All right, good. Then it's time for us to say goodbye to our viewers online. Thank you so much for being with us and watching this on demand. I hope we will get to see you live next time. There is always something waiting in the chat for you if you do decide to join us live. And we will now open under chat and rules, the unofficial chat, where we can ask any questions and get answers. So let the networking part of the meeting begin. For the viewers watching online, thank you so much. For the on-demand viewers, I should say, thank you so much, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. All the best.